Bill, what's driving you to drink this week?
Well, this week, one thing we're actually kind of excited about is the World Cup. The World Cup is getting going again, which is a really cool thing. I love the World Cup and the Forum for International Cooperation. Sports is a vehicle for learning about different cultures around the world and why this matters for us. Well, let's think about that just for a second. One reason it matters is that I played soccer through college. I played for U of I in Champaign, and it was a blast. It was like playing for the UN. We had kids from all over the planet, and we were good. It was only a club team, but we could play with anybody in the Big Ten. I promise, except for Indiana. They were out of our league and everybody's league. They were the number one team in the country at the time. But let's get back to the World Cup and what's going on. The other thing in the news lately is the trade, the United States trade with the rest of the world relating to the World Cup and international cooperation. And as far as truth in accounting goes, our neck of the woods, I believe, also includes looking at government accounting for the economy, including the inflation rate in the United States and net exports. The fundamental GDP equation is C plus I plus G plus NX. Our government adds up consumer spending, investment spending, government spending, and net exports. The last one is exports minus imports to get to total GDP in the overall economy. There are some very interesting issues underneath how well our government and how it measures the economy, including whether G belongs in there at all, as well as how our government gets to real GDP as opposed to nominal GDP in accounting for inflation. Those are topics for another day. Today, though, I'm going to talk about net exports. Net exports are exports minus imports, which at first blush can lead you to an assumption that imports aren't good for you because they detract from total GDP. In fact, I believe it's also valuable to add up exports plus imports and watch that growth over time as a measure of how vibrant and healthy the overall international trade environment is. In 2009, net exports actually benefited from a collapse in imports, in part because of the U.S. economy and the loss of consumer confidence, and people weren't buying stuff anymore. So net exports, I think it's also good to look at exports plus imports. And in the last few decades, that number has been growing a lot faster than total GDP with the internationalization of the economy. So with trade in the news these days and perhaps some more combative U.S. stances on trade, that may or may not be healthy for the overall trade environment. And more trade is good for us, not less, in my opinion. Cheers.